Good evening, everyone. My name is Harsh Agrawal, and as a part of the organizing team of TEDx SIESGST, I would like to welcome you all to this TEDx 2020. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have 8 wonderful talks from 8 phenomenal speakers who we would like to thank for responding with such great flexibility as we are to transition from a live event to a virtual YouTube premiere. Before we jump in, I'd love to acknowledge everyone who made this event possible. First of all, our council in charge, Sumitra ma'am, for her constant support and guidance. A big thank you to the core team, the web team, the curators, the design team, the media team, the PR team, our social media handlers, and the logistics team. Our theme for today is something different. This unforeseen calamity has affected everyone and everything: our social media presence, our mental health, our lifestyle, and even our professional life. So today, we'll talk about how a different frame of mind will help us cope with all of this. Without wasting any more time, let's move on to what we have all been waiting for: our first speaker for the day. We have with us here today an entrepreneur, a world traveler, a life coach, a professional speaker, and a mentor who works hard to transform the lives around him. His strategies have helped individuals and companies grow their revenue substantially. The person who holds the world record for delivering 50 speeches in 50 consecutive days. I welcome to this grand event Mr. Rahul Bhatnagar.
29th to 31st of May 2020 was when we had planned to conduct the biggest transformational event of India. We had taken the biggest venue, I had moved into a bigger office, and we had hired more people. After all, you need more people in your team to pull off an event like this. More than 2,000 tickets had already been sold and we were in full flow. Unfortunately, COVID-19 struck. India was under lockdown and we had to postpone our event. Before I go ahead, I want to ask you, just like us, which dream of yours, which aspiration of yours, or which plan of yours got halted because of COVID-19? I realized the one thing, and that is change is the only constant in life. After all, who could have thought that the entire world could come to a standstill? I am Rahul Bhatnagar and I am here to tell you how to convert this COVID-19 situation into the best phase of your life. Before I go ahead, I want to clearly state over here that I empathize with the people who have lost their lives, with people who have lost their loved ones, with people who have suffered from COVID-19 and who are still suffering from this disease. I understand that it has been tough, but as human beings, we have always fought and we are going to fight one more time. Let me take you down memory lane and tell you a little bit about myself. In the year 2012, I started with my entrepreneurial journey. We used to make discount cards. We used to go from one house to the other house, one office to other office, one event to the other event. I was speaking at multiple places, trying to sell my discount cards, but the results were not coming our way. I realized back then that Rahul, you got to change this if you want to bring about a substantial change in your life. And I took 5 decisions that actually got me the position that I am in today. Number 1, I delivered 50 consecutive speeches on 50 days. I traveled across North India, went to multiple Toastmasters clubs and gave my speeches. That is a world record. The second thing that I did was I lost a lot of weight, went for the MTV auditions, cleared the auditions, and then I was seen on national TV on MTV. That gave me a lot of recognition. The third thing was I went to Singapore to become part of the crew of the Tony Robbins event. I saw about 15,000 people attending that event, and I realized that Rahul, you have got so much inside you to help as well as support a lot of people with your mentorship. The fourth thing that I did was I went to US with my younger brother. Please understand, we did not have the money, we did not have the resources. At that particular point of time, in the first 3 years of our journey, we were only surviving at 500 rupees per month. Whatever money we made, we invested it back into our work. A lot of things had to be done in order to meet our expenses, but we realized that we need to learn and upgrade ourselves to get the results that we really want in our life. So we went to US, attended an amazing event, learned a lot of new things, and as soon as I came back, the fifth thing that I did was I took my content online so that I can provide a lot of valuable information, support people online, and get impeccable results for myself. And the results are in front of you. More than 3 lakh people have attended our online sessions. More than 10,000 people are a part of my enrolled programs. I am the only person who has delivered 5 Josh Talks, with one of them being converted in Tamil. So I've got 6 Josh Talks to my credit right now. Have been seen on multiple platforms like Your Story, Forbes, and all these beautiful things happened in my life. I'm blessed with a wonderful family, my parents, my lovely brother, my team here in Goa, and we are literally killing it. You know why that happened? Because I realized that, Rahul, you got to change. And now let me relate it with the COVID-19 situation right now. You know why were we hit so hard? Because we were not prepared. Because we were relying on just one source of income. Because we were relying only on our college education. And you know which businesses suffered the most? Which required people to be in close proximity to each other. Cinemas, malls, sports matches, classroom learnings, hotels, restaurants, saloons, all the places that required people to be together and close to each other were the ones that suffered the most. You understand that, right? You agree with that. Now what we got to understand is, and that's a question that I want to ask you, will a situation like COVID-19 arise in the future as well? Well, there's no surety. We can be hit by something like this in the future too. This time we can say and we can give the excuse that we were not prepared. But what if something like this hits us again? Will you again have that same excuse? Will you again say that no, we were not prepared? Or are you willing to change your life right now? Because what I'm going to do right away is I'm going to give you certain things and changes and industries that you can become a part of, so that if such a situation comes again, you would be leaps ahead of everybody else. So the few things that you can actually implement in your work are, number 1, email marketing. Now what is email marketing all about? Email marketing is when people voluntarily give you their database, their name, their contact numbers, their information, and you are providing them with a lot of information over emails. You are providing them with a lot of value. This is also known as nurturing the audience. So you can do email marketing for your own products, your own services, or you can do email marketing for multiple products and multiple businesses as well as clients and earn a lot of money for yourself. Number 2, if you are an impeccable communicator, you can do sessions for a lot of brands and become their spokesperson. You can become a webinar presenter for them, and actually you will be able to generate a lot of revenue. Let me tell you one more thing. Public speaking is not just about speaking to people when you are surrounded by them. Digital public speaking is also something that you can pursue if you are very good when it comes to communication skills. The third thing is online sales. Online sales is a high income skill. If you can develop that high income skill, if you can sell your products online, if you can sell your services online, you would be in high demand all the time. And I'll tell you one more thing right now. AI might come. A lot of technological advancements might come, but if you are an expert in your industry, you will always be ahead. And that is something that you need to understand. The next thing that you can do is social media management for a lot of clients. Please understand, there are a lot of businesses who want to take their content online on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, but they don't know how to do it. They don't have the right expertise. They have a lot of money. You can support those businesses, you can take their content online, you can manage their social media pages and generate revenue for yourself. Wouldn't it be amazing that you would be getting the opportunity to work from your house itself, get close to those brands and generate revenue? The next thing that you can do is package all your learning together, all your content together, all the information that you have inside you and present it to people. And you can monetize that too. By doing so, not only will you be empowering a lot of lives, but you would also be generating lakhs of rupees for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, the next thing that you can work upon is health, fitness, and immunity. A lot of people have now become even more aware that they need to work upon their health. They need to work upon their fitness. They need to learn new things. They need to learn all these things from their house itself, and you can be the facilitator of the same from your house. You don't even have to go anywhere. We have realized now, right, that internet is a utility and it is not something that was considered to be a luxury. Probably this is also one more thing that we have learned because of the COVID-19 impact. I know that when I tell you that these are the things that you can implement in your work, you might be worried, but Rahul, I'm not aware about it. Neither was I. Before 18th of April 2018, I had never done a single webinar in my entire life. Now I have done more than 350 webinars because I was ready to accept the change. E-commerce is one more industry that you can be a part of. You can sell products online, you can sell services online, you can buy product from a smaller country and sell it to bigger countries, probably in the US or Europe, and you can monetize that as well. You can also work as a virtual assistant and render your services to clients outside India and earn in a higher currency. The opportunities are endless, provided we are ready to take the action. One more thing that you can do is facilitate a lot of transactions online. And when you will do that, you will act as a mediator between a lot of buyers as well as sellers, thereby generating revenue for you. Now, I know that you would have probably never thought that, Rahul, how would I be able to do this? I have an expertise in one industry. I will never be able to pull it off. Well, that's what the message over here is. Due to COVID-19, we have now realized not to rely on single piece of income, not to rely on our college education. We have realized that the time that we have upon this planet is limited, and we need to spend that time with our loved ones, with people who matter the most. We have also got the time to realize what was missing in our life, that we need to get rid of the rat race. I read it somewhere and it wrote something like this, that after this lockdown, I know that some of you are still working from your house. You are having your online sessions, you are having your online work. And because of that, you have got a lot of time with you to learn new things and upgrade yourself. If after this lockdown, if after this particular phase, if you don't come across as an upgraded individual, if you don't learn something new, then you never lack the time. Rather, you lack the will, ladies and gentlemen. If I would not have taken that different path in my life, I would have always been doing the same thing, going from one brand to the other, looking for new opportunities, looking for them, looking up to them to give me a chance. But we changed it. And that is exactly that I want to do for your own self, that I want you to do for your own self. We have realized due to COVID-19 that nature needs to be preserved. We have realized due to COVID-19 that we are not good enough. We need to regularly, constantly upgrade our own self. We have realized that our health needs to work upon. It needs to be taken care of. And all these are the things that you can actually implement in your work. Go ahead and create so many more opportunities for yourself. You know, the biggest takeaway that I have got from this phase is that you got to take actions so very fast. I tell you what we did. In the month of April, I realized that now people need to have a lot of online learning. I need to act as the person who's going to support them. And you know what we did? We increased our webinar plan from 3,000 to 5,000 people. Now we were accommodating 5,000 people in a single webinar of mine. And because of that, not only were we able to empower a lot of lives, help a lot of people, bring about a substantial change in the lives of a lot of people, but we also increased our revenue. And let me tell you that this phase has been one of the most profitable phases of our life. Again, the reason why that happened was because we were ready to accept the change. We were ready to embrace the change. We were ready to implement the changes that were required. We increased even more people in our team so that we can facilitate and help a lot of people. All the things that I told you over here, in a nutshell, I explained all of that during my sessions, during my webinars, and we were able to empower a lot of people. And let me tell you, a lot of people who were initially reluctant to use these technological things in their life actually did it. And that is the reason why they have been able to bring about those changes in their lives. I'll tell you one more thing right now. Think about it and tell me, how many brands are there? How many individuals are there whom you only know because of technology? Whom you only know because of internet? A lot of people whom you have seen becoming successful only because of the internet. The right opportunity is now available with you. It does not matter if you come from a smaller city or if you belong to a metro city. It does not matter. A lot of people are always afraid about their looks. A lot of people are always worried that I don't look good and things like that. All that does not matter. It does not matter whether you have a godfather or you don't have one. All that matters is that you are willing to learn something new, put it across people, get the results in your favor, and bring about a substantial change in your life, ladies and gentlemen. I know that the COVID-19 struck us really hard, but has it not given us the time to reflect upon what was missing in our life, mend all those things, put the broken pieces together, and then march ahead? Well, if you ask me, the answer is yes. If you ask your own self, the answer is yes. If you look at it, you would be able to bring about the change that you have always desired, but were never able to get the time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you have the time available with you. But you know what the harsh reality is? That even after listening to this, just 2% of you are ready to take the action. You know why? Things have become normal. Restaurants have again restarted. Saloons have again restarted. People are now going to the restaurants, going to the saloons. They're wearing the mask. Some of them are not even wearing the mask. We are traveling with the mask. Everything has become a norm to us. And you know what? All the people who are working in the industries where there's close proximity will also get accustomed to this new norm. This is what it is said. Oh, everything will pass by. And after some time, when we will have the COVID vaccine, some of us will take it. Some of us might not get vaccinated, but we will again get back to our normal routine life. And at that particular point of time, we will again forget that we need to bring about a substantial change in our life. And that is what has been happening with us since the past so many years. We knew that we have to accept new things. We knew that we have to bring about a substantial change in our lives. But the fact is that so many people are not going to do that. You know, so many people enroll in my programs. They are so motivated. They are so pepped up. They want to bring about a substantial change in their lives. But the reason why they are unable to do it is because they are not ready to go and work with consistency. That is one more thing that you actually need to do. Number one, choose one of the options that I gave you. Number two, work upon your actions, work upon the things that you know, upgrade yourself, implement all those things in your life. Number three, you need to be consistent. And number four, you also have to be patient. The results are definitely going to come your way, but it is going to take time. It is going to be challenging. It is going to be difficult. It will take a lot of toll on your mind. You might think that I'm old enough or young enough to learn something new in my life. A lot of people think on similar lines. But the ones who are able to bring about a change are the ones who embrace the change and implement all the learnings in their life. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? I have always heard and believed in this quotation, and that is, opportunities are the gifts of God, but these are only meant for those people who grab the opportunities. When I was applying for that MTV audition or for the Tony Robbins team, I never thought that I would be able to pull it off. But what I thought was, Rahul, just give it one try. Maybe you will be able to do it. I was the person who was least interested in technology. I did not have a smartphone, but I started implementing those things and I was able to turn things around for myself. Why will you not be able to do it? The only thing that might prevent you from doing this is if you don't take adequate action right now. Everything is available to you. All the things that you need for you to become successful is right now in front of you. Believe me. All that matters is, are you willing to put your head down and do the work? Are you willing to bring about the change that is important? A few years ago, there was a friend of mine. I gave him a business opportunity. And you know what he said? That Rahul, I will consider it. I will consider it. He said that I don't have money. I don't have resources. 2 months later, he was coming to Goa. And he spent more than 40,000 rupees in Goa. And I told him, you said that you don't have money. And he said, you know what, Rahul, you don't come to Goa often. Right now, when I had come, I thought that I should live my life. And that is what we do. We waste our time, money, energy, and resources on things that we don't need rather than investing on our own self. Invest on your learning, implement all the things that I have told you, choose something or the other, and then go all in. And believe me, you would be able to bring about a change that you have always wanted and desired. I know the COVID-19 phase has been challenging. I know that it has not just hampered us physically, but has also hampered us mentally. I have been interacting with a lot of people who are now saying that, Rahul, we have found it really tough. We are getting anxiety attacks. I know that everything has been tough, but it is rightly said that there's a silver lining in every dark cloud. And the silver lining over here is that you can turn it around and you can make this phase the best phase of your life. We are doing it. I'm not just doing it for my own self, for my team members, for my family members, but for a lot of my other mentees. And I want to do it for you as well, because I know that it is possible. If I can help you in any manner in your journey, if I can support you in any manner in your journey, reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to do it for you. But ladies and gentlemen, do not miss out on this opportunity. It is rightly said that we live just once, but if we give it our best shot, once is enough. Choose, implement, take action, be persistent, and mind-blowing opportunities are going to come your way. To conclude, I would like to say one thing right now. When we are born without a name. But when we die with a name. That name should be remembered forever. This is the time to put your head down and make the most of it. Do it, ladies and gentlemen, for yourself, for your family members, and your loved ones. Thank you so much. Signing off. Bye.
We are off to an extraordinary start. Let's keep it going with our next speaker. An educationist by profession, social activist by passion, columnist by choice, and a mother by voice. A Vidarbha Bhushan awardee who has expanded her passion to social work. She teaches OB and PR to budding engineers and is an accomplished stage artist who also has a book coming very soon. A perfect example of how you can do something different to help the community in the finest way possible. Currently working as an assistant professor at KSM Bangalore. Please welcome the very affectionate and enthusiastic Professor Urmi Chakravorty.
And all, my name is Professor Urmi Chakravorty, and I'm an educator. I'm an assistant professor. I help future business leaders and media enthusiasts pursue their dreams of better PR and organizational behavior. I'm into this profession since more than 10 years now, and I'm glad and honored to be a part of this industry. Firstly, before starting my talk, I would like to congratulate the entire team of TEDx SIESGST, right from the curators to organizers to people who have been, in the core committee team, from logistics to design, every single person who is involved in this beautiful endeavor. Great job, guys. As I say this, I also know that how difficult it is to set up something in a given span of time with, of course, people all over keeping busy with different networks, different Wi-Fi speeds and whatnot. I also congratulate to the entire teaching fraternity and staff members of the institution for organizing and giving us the honor of, being on board. And I take this privilege of sharing my heartiest congratulations to the entire team. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for having me on board and giving me a chance of sharing what I feel and how I feel about my topic on robotness and adaptability in academics post the pandemic and how we fight back. The pandemic has affected our education system badly due to the total closures of schools and colleges of more than 3 months now. And the institutions. The slow pace of change in academic institution globally is lamentable. With centuries-old lecture-based approaches to teaching entrenched in institutional biases, outmoded classrooms. So, however, COVID-19 has become a catalyst for educational institutions worldwide to search for innovation solutions, relatively in a very short period of time. So everyone rushed to create an online world, a bubble, if you may, where you can sit in the comfort of your home and work and study. But little did we realize that the lack of preparedness we had for this event. To be honest, just like the backbenchers who, comes to an exam prepared with a wrong subject, the types, right? I'm sure you guys know. There's always a special person who says, "Arey, aaj science tha kya?" Similarly, we caught off guard. We tried to catch up with technology, but we could not do. We when it comes to infrastructure or technology or internet or speed, yes, we have done we have come across. But when it comes, the similar thing when it comes to outdated and ancient or traditional methodologies or pedagogies, we are like the Bastons and Robbins with all the 31 flavors, yet like the Apple App Store. There's an app for that, there's an app for this. From low internet speeds, power cuts, shouting matches of the neighbors, and the children who suddenly don't look cute anymore, but solidaire on, as they say. But in today's scenario, the online process is encouraged. But again, the challenge is having access to or the availability to devices to utilize various resources. Low internet connectivity. Nuclear families apparently with limited availability of resources, which is being shared by all. Working parents, the internet as a resource is being shared as well. Slow net speed, power outages, most of the times, the weather conditions, rains, whatnot. There are times which are making things very difficult, in fact, worse. Virtual challenges, I'm sure many of you would agree with me that the virtual challenges are more. What made this difficult is not the pandemic. Yes, boss, it is not the pandemic. I said it. What made this difficult is, probably our ability to adapt. Yes, we are honestly speaking, we are the creatures of habit. We are so used to living in the system that we do not want to even try changing it. To prove my point, what is the discussion currently you come across now every single time? Okay, when it comes to education. When will the school opens? When will the educational institutions open? When will we take admissions in the college? What is next? Career. When will things be fine? Not once. Or we also call it, this is a disaster. Like we say, this is a disaster. What is happening? Why is happening? This is the right time. We would have taken admission. There are so many things planned and we are not able to do anything. Not once basically you hear a single soul saying that let's just learn from the disaster and build apparently a new system that can ensure safety and better learning. Not once. Yeah, of course, there are some institutions and institutions who have definitely tried going online and help students learn, in more creative manners or angles or aspects. But this is merely a band-aid, not a solution. Not at all. The way 2020 has treated us, just imagine if suddenly the electric grid fails due to a snag, what will happen to our online world? Yeah, I repeat, just imagine suddenly the electric grid fails due to a major snag. What will happen to our online world? Along with some of the interesting initiatives, as I told you, few institutes did make it very easy for the students in contributing even the eradication which we all are facing or going through some online apps, research, creating a better space and pace for all. But it is very widely and wisely said, necessity is the mother of all inventions. What this pandemic has taught us or did was simply reinvent the wheel. Yes, can you guess it? It's the online education, correct? Online education has been with us for a while now, but somehow we consistently fail to realize the value of it or see the value in it. And that was the chink in the armor. Now the same raised eyebrows and doubtful faces have realized that this is the way forward. Yes, they did. Many who thought that this is just a way of, probably a waste of time, this is not how education will work. Apparently, the entire teaching fraternity, boss, is just with their arduous efforts, have made sure that there's a regular interaction with the students. Students are encouraged to join these interactions. Of course, those occasional guest lectures, which you all sit with the phones in the hands, research during the lectures, right? But jokes apart. This has also made it possible to interact with people who are otherwise simply not available due to their time schedules. Yes, the networking has probably gone strong. COVID-19 has changed the global education landscape in matter of months, and it has suddenly raised many questions, questions that otherwise never get raised. This pandemic has challenged the value system. Let me explain. Imagine you're studying the engineering for 4 years to specialize in a field. Now, the advent of online courses, a lot of specializations like these specializations have become available at a fraction of the cost. I don't say that all are the cutting edge or better than the college education. I never said that. But a lot of them are. You are all engineers and science students, you do the math. Slowly and surely, this is the next big question which will be put forth. So, do we even have the answer? Clearly, no. Clearly, no. This point is this is a sign, possibly even from God. Let me just put it across that way. That, this is the time for us to change and change for the better. It is time to break the chains of the traditional systems and make way for the future. Why I say this? Just imagine the system we have created. Our entire system across the globe is designed to create drones. Yes, drones and jacks or all trades. Unfortunately, our system makes us a master of none. A clear proof of what is found in the IT industry, my dear friends, where you see bright mechanical engineers, they're writing code. So do they even ask themselves why, or have they lost the love of creating machines? So this is the time to make education focused and value added. It's time we stopped producing drones and start probably producing experts. So to conclude our perspective, it remains the same. Will today's situation revolutionize the online learning in India? The ongoing pandemic has surely accelerated the pace of remote learning, and many positive outcomes are expected in the future for upscaling, mentors, the students, heralding a new era of the sustainable learning system. Key online portals, there are many to name: Swayam, Virtual Labs, Fossey, eYantra, Microsoft Education. They all have gone apparently 5 times up. Blended learning will basically change the entire ecosystem and traditional educational institutions. Almost all world-class institutions have MOOC providers like Coursera, Open Culture, Skillshare, Udemy, others, which all together have probably jumped off this foray of making the best use of this opportunity. Almost every institution has offered various virtual vocational courses, and it is very heartening to note that remote learning across the globe in the form of distance education mode is already a popular option for many students for reasons such as locational flexibility, convenience of time, as well as the study schedule for people who are working at a very reduced cost. Yes. So yes, India too is ready for the virtual learning and exploring. So as they say, it might be tough for apparently a teacher and a student, but it is never impossible when we speak about our learnings. So what we basically learn from this is surely a blessing in disguise. How, you may ask? Well, it's time to break the traditions, isn't it? The next logical question is how. So this is how. It is about we let go of that age-old method of making everyone learn everything. If MOOCs have probably proven something, is that it's learning. Its learning can be broken down into smaller pieces, or rather into specialized places or pieces. Second, of course, learning need not be expensive. Again, going back to several courses which are just up there for you guys. Imagine if one can learn a course by spending a few hundred, then why do you have to spend lakh for joining a college? Or I definitely see a few eyebrows going up and rising up there. Let me clear this out. The idea is not to replace school or the colleges. The idea is to make it more meaningful and targeted. Why force everyone to learn things they don't want to learn and burden the mind? Still not clear? Okay, let me give it in a better way. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. What is the moral here? Not everyone is suited to do everything. And secondly, people who blindly follow are destined to make the same mistake again. So it's the time we change and change with the future in mind. If we are to succeed and become the world leader, it will not happen if we do the same thing which we have been doing, or do everything what the others are doing. Else, we need to carve our own path with specializations in mind, or with an ecosystem that breeds creativity. That's all from my end, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hearing me out with utmost grace and lending an ear to my speech. Thank you once again, the team of TEDx SIEGST, for having me on board and giving me the privilege of sharing what I feel. I hope all of you stay safe, take care of yourselves, and always stay happy. Keep learning.
That talk has left me feeling passionate about everything in life. Talking about passion, there's a true love for something in life which I'm sure most of us share: music. TEDx SIESGST presents to you a young singer and songwriter, music producer who defines himself as a 6-foot nerd who writes and sings love songs. He writes music inspired from real life events and has been working on his first original EP called Let the Heart Speak. I'm very excited to present one of the most promising emerging artists of India, Shubham J.
Rolling. Rolling. Hey, what's up guys? Just trying to get my hair all perfect because आजकल ज़िंदगी में हम लोग इस चीज़ को काफ़ी चेज़ करने लग गए कि हर चीज़ को परफेक्ट चाहिए. अभी मेरा नाम ही ले लो. नाम है मेरा शुभम जादव, बट बचपन से मुझे ये था कि यार कूल बनना है ज़िंदगी में, कुछ तो करना है कि कूल साउंड करो. तो मैंने नाम को शुभम जादव से शुभम जे कर लिया. वैसे ही कुछ है अपने रिलेशनशिप्स के साथ, वो चाहे वो एक रोमांटिक रिलेशनशिप हो या किसी फैमिली रिलेशनशिप हो या कोई भी रिलेशनशिप हो. वी टेंड टू गो इन दिस रैट रेस ऑफ फाइंडिंग अ परफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप जिसमें कोई खामियां नहीं है, कोई गिले शिकवा नहीं है. बट ये सारी चीज़ें ना काफ़ी फेक है. वी जस्ट ट्राई टू पोर्ट्रे दिस इमेज दैट एवरीथिंग इज ऑल फाइन, इट्स ऑल हंकी डोरी एंड it's always a rainbow around. But in the end, what happens is you collect so much of your angst inside you, and all these thoughts are bottling up inside you. And one day, when one of the person in a relationship, they try to call it quits, it's like a volcanic eruption of all the thoughts. And I wrote a song about it. It's called as Keh Bhi Do. I'm just gonna play it for you guys. I hope you enjoy. This song is called Keh Bhi Do.
कह भी दो बातें वो सारी दिल में छिपाई, वो आज कह भी दो. हाँ मैं हूँ मुजरिम तुम्हारा, न कोई बेचारा हूँ मैं, न तुम माफ करो. जो होता है वो न होता सही, क्यों झूठे थे वादे और बातें सभी. न होना खफा न रोना कभी, सितारा है तो तेरे लायक नहीं हूँ मैं. सारी दिल में छिपाई वो आज कह तू कह भी तू अनदेखी सी सारी बातें तुम्हारी मैं आज कह तू जो होता है वो न होता सही क्यों झूठे थे वादे और बातें तेरी मायूस हूँ मैं पर कमजोर नहीं तू बहती रहे मैं साहिल नहीं तेरा
A San Francisco Bay Area based Indian classical vocalist who is renowned for his specialization in Indian classical, specifically in Hindustani classical, semi-classical, devotional music and Natya Sangeet. After winning India's National Film Award as the Best Male Playback Singer for the classical piece in the film Katya Karjit Ghushli, he has firmly established himself as a face of Indian classical music of the new generation. Honed in the Gurukul system of learning from the legendary Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki, he has an illustrious pedigree and his thrilling performances bear this out. Founder of Indian Classical Music and Arts Foundation and a non-profit organization focused on preserving, nurturing and celebrating Indian classical music. He is also a teacher and an inspiration for a motivated student body of over 150 students in the San Francisco Bay Area. With great pleasure, TEDx SIESGST is excited to introduce to you our next speaker on board, Shri Mahesh Kale.
Hi everyone. Let's dial back a few months to February 2020. There were murmurs of a contagious disease spreading rapidly. I'd just returned from India after a musical trip across 6 countries, doing about 25 to 30 concerts, judging a TV show, a music TV show in Mumbai, all while teaching my students in San Francisco Bay Area remotely, like I always do. Upon return, we had an MKSM students music recital, and a week after, we had an immersive residential music retreat up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Right after we had returned from Santa Cruz on May 11th, World Health Organization declared Corona to be a global pandemic. On March 13th, mass gatherings were banned, and 16th, we got an order from the local county asking all of us to stock up supplies because we were going into a lockdown or a shelter in place mode. There was a lot of chaos and confusion around, and people started to run around to stock up supplies. So did we. And there was a lot of text messaging to see which of the Indian stores still had supplies for the Indian spices like garam masala, sambar masala, but also roti, rice, not to mention Indian noodles, which I like to sometimes indulge in with hot and sweet sauce. I was a little bummed that I had to cancel my in-person classes and move them back online because I love to spend time with my students, especially when I'm here. Nevertheless, we worked out a video schedule for lessons, and also to aid them a Q&A session on Fridays, along with a rigorous practice session on Sundays for a couple of hours. Everything was going fine. The community started to get used to the new musical schedule, just like all of us were trying to get used to the pandemic times. After 2.5 weeks, towards the end of the 3rd week, we got another order from the county. This time, the lockdown was going to be extended for another 4 weeks. Now, this is where the real panic began. There was a lot of gloom and lull amongst all of the people. There were many questions that were cropping around. I'm sure you have experienced a similar gloom during these times in your own way. Many questions like what is going to happen, why did this happen, where is the cure, when is it going to come, am I still going to have my job, are we going to go into recession, who is going to look after my parents. But the main question was, when are things going to become normal? Many times in adversity, channeling the best within you becomes most difficult but also most essential. My journey with music has taught me, and I deeply believe that music, Indian classical music especially, has so much more to offer than just entertainment. It heals, it cures you. Just holding a single note reminds us of the simple, sustainable pleasures that are available to us. When the bliss of a musical movement touches you, the beauty is so preciously beautiful that it far supersedes the accolades that the melody meets. When you're singing, it's almost like you're in the company of the most loving and compassionate person. And this compassion, this companionship is readily available to you. And it teaches you hope, patience, a reassurance that everything is going to be okay eventually, and also that happiness is always available to all of us as long as we look in the right place. If I were to talk about my own self personally, I feel music has taught me more about life than life itself. And I wanted to use all of this to do something during these challenging pandemic times. This is where Project TLG was born. TLG here stands for Thaat Lakshan Geet, an Indian classical song which was composed by S.N. Ratanjankar, which describes the 10 parent modes of the Hindustani ragas. The textual information is beautifully transformed into an experience, and hence it becomes a very potent tool for the musical codification of this century old song. Soon enough, the subsequent Friday at our Q&A session, which we call Chai Time, Project TLG was announced, and it met with a very ready enthusiasm from all the students who were looking forward to do something refreshing and positive. Deadlines were worked out, assignments were given, and everyone got to their practice to make sure that they do the best they can with the project. Once we got that rolling, then we assembled a tech team from within the student community to kind of estimate the scope of the song, only to realize that it was not just a mere song, but it was a significant endeavor. To get 100 students to first learn, then practice, then video record the song with the exact same musical as well as technical specifications in the isolation of their own homes with whatever tools they have available, and then to stitch all of this together so that it sounds beautiful, representing them properly so that it all comes together in unison. I thought it was not a small endeavor, but after a lot of practices, lot of hard work, in about 6 to 8 weeks, Project TLG came to fruition. A team of almost 100, the ages ranging from 6 to 60, most of them from the San Francisco Bay Area, but also a few of them were spread across the United States as well as a few in India. All of them, while managing their own demanding work, their own time zones, their own schoolwork, isolated in their own spaces, cumulatively put 2,000 musical hours and 700 more process and technical hours. And it was but a 6-minute song. But the cheer, the joy, and the happiness that it brought was boundless. I want to read a few of the feedbacks from the students that participated in the project TLG. Swati says, one is never isolated with music as their companion. Prashant says, TLG connected us at the core of our existence and then elevated us to a higher level of consciousness, beyond the barriers of language, border, and color. Priya says, there is so much richness in music of the TLG, yet simplicity in the purpose of the project. In these difficult pandemic times, TLG is a reminder of the goodness of music and brightness it can bring. It felt good to have a common purpose with a community trying to present something beautifully together. There was a beauty in hearing all the parts coming together musically and a deep comfort in visually seeing everyone's singing faces from their respective homes during lockdown. Aditi, who's a teenager, says, I value the TLG experience during these pandemic times because it reminds me that we can still create memories during the pandemic. Yes, the awareness of the pandemic was very much there, but the despair and the anxiety was replaced by peace and solace. I think Project TLG had become our cocoon of happiness. Over these 2 months, the students thought that we were in the pursuit of Project TLG, but I knew all along that we were actually in the pursuit of happiness. Project TLG had just managed to create that little piece of heaven for the happiness to hold. Before I present the song from Project TLG, I wanted to leave you with a thought. All of us have a cocoon of happiness. In our case, during the pandemic times, the cocoon of happiness has been music. What's yours? Thank you so much. Stay well, stay blessed, and I really hope that you enjoy our song.
प्रथम बिलावल मेल सुनिश्चित प्रथम बिलावल मेल सुनिश्चित प्रथम बिलावल मेल सुनिश्चित शूद्र सुरन सोमण्डित सोहत शूद्र सुरन सोमण्डित सोहत दूजो कल्याण गुणी सुसम्मत दूजो कल्याण गुणी सुसम्मत ए मन सोहि कहावत राजत ए मन सोहि कहावत राजत एक विकृत मध्यम तीव्रयुत एक विकृत मध्यम तीव्रयुत तापरख माज तीजो भरनत तापरख माज तीजो भरनत मृदुनि खादयेक विकृत चमकत मृदुनि खादयेक विकृत चमकत भैरवधु विकृत निध कोमल स्थित भैरवधु विकृत निध कोमल स्थित तुरीय मेलत जनमन भावत तुरीय मेलत जनमन भावत विकृत मृदुरिधीवर मध्यम त्रिविकृत मृदुरिधीवर मध्यम पूर्वी मेल पंचम कुनि विलसत पूर्वी मेल पंचम कुनि विलसत मारवा छठहि मेल कहावत मारवा छठहि मेल कहावत त्रिविकृत मृदुरितिवर मध्यमत त्रिविकृत मृदुरितिवर मध्यम कोमल सुरसिंगार द्विविकृत गणि कोमल सुरसिंगार सप्तम काफी मेल गुणिमान सप्तम काफी मेल गुणिमानत आसावरी मेल अठम सुमधुर आसावरी मेल अठम सुमधुर त्रिविकृत मृदुरि धगसो सुसज्जिता त्रिविकृत मृदुरि धगसो सुसज्जिता चतुर्विकृत भैरवी नवम मेल चतुर्विकृत भैरवी नवम मेल मृगधनि कोमल सोमल रीझत मृगधनि कोमल सोमल रीझत तोड़ी दशम मेल सुंदर तोड़ी दशम मेल सुंदर मृदुरि धगति वर मध्यम संगत मृदुरि धगति वर मध्यम संगत दशमेल राग जनक सब कहत दशमेल राग जनक सब कहत चतुर मुनि सुन सुन सुजन यागत चतुर मुनि सुन सुन सुजन यागत प्रथम लीलावल मील सुनिश्चित प्रथम लीलावल मील लीलावल मील लीलावल मील सुनिश्चित
Wow, that's a whole new perspective to look at artists. There's a completely new appreciation for the work ethic of people in the arts industry. Knowledge is the sound that only a disciplined practice of silence can make. Karma Yogi. Our next speaker for the day is a multiple award winning, internationally acclaimed author, adventurer, thinker, and social worker who is about to take us on a spiritual journey through our own thoughts and morals. Navin Gulia, a practicing Karma Yogi, is an ex army officer who writes in 3 languages and is known for his work for the welfare of underprivileged children.
Hello, friends. Uh, I feel privileged to have been provided this opportunity of interacting with you all on this platform of TEDx. Now, the theme for today's talk is Some Think Different. That some people think differently. So, it is in itself indicative that maybe if you think different, it is somehow better. And maybe it will improve your chances of success. Now tell me, do you know of any person who is not talking about or who is not trying to be different? We all buy the same cars, but then we put some logos, some stickers, some lights, and try to appear different. We all try to dress differently from others. So everybody is trying to be different. So the different perspective that I would be able to provide on this theme is that in trying to be different, everybody is actually being the same, because we all are unique. Trying to be different is going one notch lower than that. When you are unique, why would you want to be different? So the importance is not of being different, but going to the basics, being yourself. And I am here when I started working in the field of social welfare for the underprivileged children in rural parts of the country. Everybody advised me, and it was obvious that if I established my work, I was based out of a city. If I established my work in a city, in an urban area, that to the national capital region, Delhi, where you have all the media and corporates, there would be more chances of me to get attention. There would be more chances of me to get support. But I decided to work in the villages, in the rural areas. There are slums in rural areas where there are no facilities. There is a slum in Mumbai called Dharavi, and lots of people go there and work. And that is what they call different. They are working in a slum after all. But Dharavi slum is the biggest production house of Mumbai. The maximum products are prepared there. It's a business place. And the children there are aware of all the modern facilities, amenities, internet, laptop, mobiles, everything. And you'd find children talented in every field: dance, studies, language, drama, whatever. So everybody wants to work in a slum to be different. But there are rural slums where nobody visits. And if you're working there, nobody would see you. And I chose to come here. I'm sitting in a place where even the nearest house might be 1 kilometer away from me or something. And people try to dress differently. I just dress in one color, simply, what is available, so that I do not have to hunt for clothes. I take the basic food which is available. I do not go for exquisite dishes to try something different. I just take the basic food, the food of the place. And I live in the basic amenities. So it is not about trying something new. Different does not mean new, that you have to try something new. Then it is different. Now, I get to talk to a lot of students, a lot of people, and there's a phrase that is commonly used. Life is complicated. Life is complicated because you have forgotten the basics in trying to be different, in wanting to follow and pursue intellectual looking, bearded, turban bearing, 600-year, a dress, a get-up that was worn, clothes that were worn 600 years back or 1000 years back, wearing that kind of a Baba. You prefer to go to that God man and think that maybe he has the intellect. So you think you are you're being different. You're leaving your corporate world for some time and going to the ashram of some such person who himself has no experience in life. He has not performed. He has not carried out any duty. He has not performed any job. So, and the thing is that life becomes complicated because you forget the basics. You want something different. You want something new in terms of philosophy. Life is not complicated. I personally have not seen anything simpler than life. There are only two rules to follow. Besides that, whatever you build around it, around those three rules, you can build anything. Every person can build his own space, his own life, his own career, his own choices. But those three rules will not change for anybody. And those three rules are what you studied in third grade in school. And what I have seen is that most of the people who say their life is complicated, their life is complicated because they have committed mistake on one of these three basic rules. The basic rules are not things that you can compromise on and get away with. So life is very simple. For life, there is two rules. Respect the job that is giving you bread and butter, irrespective of what job it is. Secondly, respect the person who is caring for you, who is loving towards you. Respect that person. Do not try to pursue somebody who is not. A job that is not with you does not mean anything to you. The job you are doing, that means. So respect your job, respect the person who cares for you. That is about it. Now coming to those three lessons of life which we learned in third grade, learned in the sense that we came to know about them, we read them, we did not implement them. And knowledge that is not implemented is of no use. The first rule is work is worship. It sounds good, but it is old. So people try something new. But what does it mean? Work is worship. Worship basically is something spiritual. And you have to treat your work as if it was worship. Do you treat your work as worship? Is your working place neat and tidy, well organized? Do you work with complete sincerity? As in worship, when you are working, you are not thinking about anything else except your work. So you have to treat your work like worship. I treat my work as worship. It does not matter to me what new brands are there in the market. It does not matter to me which new movies have come out. It does not matter to me what is going on in the world affairs, things in which I am not directly contributing anything. I have no role to play. So I'm not bothered about which new clothes, dishes, whatever has come in the market. The only thing that matters to me is what is related to my work. That is the only thing that matters to me. And that was the first rule. Work is worship. Treat your work as worship. The role of the president, the job of the president might be a very appealing job. The role of a cine celebrity might be a very appeasing job, appealing job. But it is not with you. The job that is with you, the job that is giving you bread and butter, give importance to that. Treat your work like worship. That is the first rule. The second rule in life is God helps those who help themselves. So if you look up the meaning of the term God in dictionary, it is basically something that has created this universe and something that runs this universe, probably. So even a universe creating God is limited in his abilities. that he can only help a person who helps himself. God helps those who help themselves. So, if that universe creating God is limited, how possibly can you help somebody who does not want to be helped? Or how can you be helped if you're not willing to be helped? So, the thing is, whatever issues, problems, things you face in life, you have to handle them yourselves. It is your life, it is your responsibility. And do not try to help people who do not want to take your help. I'm not running the world economy. I'm not running the country's economy. I'm not handling world's political affairs, religious affairs. I'm not an expert on that. So I do not spend my time thinking about them. I believe people who are doing their job should be knowing their job. I'm only concerned about the job that I have at my disposal, the job that I am expected to attend to. So God helps those who help themselves. This will take away all the worries, the complaints from your life, because you know if you are having a problem, you have to handle it yourself. If you are having problem, you are at fault. See what is it that you can do better. If you are having problems, differences with your parents, see what you are doing wrong. Don't see what they are doing wrong. How could you handle it better? If you are having problems with your siblings, your partner, your friends, with people, then see where you are going wrong, how you can handle it better. So God helps those who help themselves. That is the second lesson. And the third lesson, basic lesson of life is, don't keep all your eggs in the same basket. Do not keep all your eggs in the same basket. We have studied it in third grade. But I have seen that most of the people in their lives, they end up keeping all their eggs in the same basket. And eventually the basket falls down and it breaks. Everything is lost. What it basically means is, invest into a lot of things in life. I was wanting to join the army. I had completed 4 years of training, everything I had done very well. But matter of chance, I met with an accident and I was not able to serve. Despite not only qualifying the examination, but having completed 4 years of training as well. But I could take the situation. Why I could take it was because I was a writer, I was a thinker, I was a poet, I loved nature, I loved to travel, I was trying to learn music. There's so many things in life. I wanted to work for the welfare of the society as a social worker, not as a politician. There were things I wanted to do in my life. That's why if one was taken away from me, I was not troubled. Your life should not be dependent upon the friendship or support of one, two, or three people. There should be numerous people in your life who love you, who support you. And it all depends upon what kind of a person you are. Have lots of people who support you. So if one or two goes away for whatever reason, it does not affect your life. Secondly, have lots of interests. So if one odd interest is taken away from you, there are other interests that you can pursue, that you can follow, that you can spend your time doing. And I always believe that if a person has chosen to be, now this might be controversial, but I personally believe that if a person has chosen to be an Olympic gold medalist and he becomes one, but in the process he compromises with his family life, with his personal life, with other hobbies and interests that he could have had. Basically, he compromises with his life just so that he could become an Olympic gold medalist. I would see that person as a loser. Yes, if he has been able to do all those things as well, then it is good. Because for one thing to live life to leave all the other hobbies and interests and things that life has to offer, the learning that life has to offer, just for one thing is not worth it. Life is an experience of everything, of relationships, of love, of heartbreak, of winters, of summers, of friends, of enemies, of every kind of experience. So one should not sacrifice the experience of life for one single goal. You should always have lots of goals and alternate goals in life, interests. So the final lesson was, do not keep all your eggs in the same basket. If you follow these three rules in your life, there are chances that you would really not have a complicated life. And again, going back to the theme of this series of talks, that some think different. Everybody is trying to think different. So you will be unique if you do not think different and if you just go back to the basics. That is my idea for this talk today. I hope I have been able to present an idea which was not already existing in your mind. So if I've been able to provide you something new in terms of food for thought, I would have achieved my success. Thank you. Thank you so much.
At the end of the day, I'm at peace because my intentions are good and my heart is pure. A young rising star in the world of classical dance who has been dancing from the age of 5 and has already won a national award. She performed in the bandstand for the London Olympics and is well known for her creative performances in national competitions, dancing with diyas in her palms, earthen pots, and many other surprising inclusions, as well as Bharatnatyam and a fusion of Kalakari and yoga into dance moves. TEDx SISGST 2020 presents to you the young talent who is the winner of the annual Bal Shri Award, Simran Sivakumar. Indian classical music has never been just entertainment. It is a way of evolving an individual human into a universal entity. Truly enthralling performance. Up next, we have a qualified therapist with the experience of working with clients from diverse backgrounds for more than 2.5 years. She thrives to spread awareness regarding mental health and destigmatize the counseling process by reaching the maximum number of people in need. An occasional blogger with a demarcated professional and personal life. She surely is an inspiration for us to look up to. I welcome to this event Dr. Rasika Karkare.
Sometimes I wonder what would happen if my 20-year-old self, stressed, lonely, and homesick, would not have found a good counselor. Would I be giving this TEDx talk today? Would I be addressing this wonderful audience in front of me? Perhaps not. Actually, definitely not. Let me take you back to my story. I was this 20-year-old on a journey to discover myself. For the first time, I had shifted from my home city to a completely new city to do my masters. Now, this was a very difficult phase of my life. For the first time, I was moving away from the comfort of my home, trying to make new friends in college at the age of 20, attending college every day because attendance was compulsory with a pile of heavy counseling books. Life was difficult and it was happening to me for the first time. I was scared, I was lonely, and I was crying. But at the same time, along with this storm of my emotions, my university kept me busy by giving its fair share of surprises. Unrealistic deadlines, at least in my head. College had just started and we started receiving tons of submissions. Surprise tests were weekly business, and newsflash, we had to take 10 sessions of mandatory therapy for ourselves. Yes, you heard that right. It was a compulsory condition for us. If it was not, I don't think so I would have ever taken therapy for myself. Like 80% of our population, I was practically unaware of what happens in the four wall of therapy room. How will it really help me? And the most pressing question, do I really need it? What's wrong with me? But today when I look back, I knew what were the exact dangers I was in. Because at that time, the most pressing decision for me was whether to buy an HP laptop or a Lenovo laptop. But now that I'm in this field more than 3 years, having seen hundreds of clients, when they come to me feeling completely lost and resistant towards therapy, it's very difficult for me to watch. Some of their narratives were very shocking. I want you to pay careful attention to these stories that clients have shared with me. I felt she was advising me like I'm her child. When I told him my views, I could literally see judgment on his face. I felt like she was giving me generalized solutions. She ended up sharing my secrets with father. I felt betrayed. Each of these stories scream breach of ethical mental health practices. If you have heard them very carefully, you could be one of these people. If you are not putting a lot of thought and effort of how to choose a right mental health professional to give your own mental health in their responsible hands, then it will be very difficult for you. When I heard these stories, I was very intrigued to know what's really happening in this profession. So I tried to do a qualitative research on 14 mental health professionals from Mumbai and from Bangalore. What I found from this study was very interesting and even alarming. Right from having very little understanding of ethics and law in the mental health field, to doing short-term courses and then falling into the psychology field calling themselves therapists. I thought, what a waste of 7 years of my studies. I also found that 65% of professionals do not seek therapy themselves. Imagine me fighting with my parents at home and coming and taking your session. How would that session go? It will be very miserable for your mental health and for mine as well. It is also very disturbing that for counseling psychologists, there is no license exam, there is no government and there is no ruling authority that will govern the practices run by mental health professionals. This is a most pressing need that was back then and still remains. So if you are in the same place that I was in back that time to choose a right therapist, I hope this following checklist will help you in making that correct, responsible and impactful decision for yourself. Minimum master's degree in counseling psychology. Does not indulge in advice giving or giving personal opinions. Uses scientific evidence-based practices. Charges fees for services and meets only in professional setting. Having open and flexible mind about differences in opinions. And lastly, seeks personal therapy and supervision for themselves. Okay, now that we have talked a lot about how to choose a mental health professional, I'm sure that you all are equipped here to choose a correct, good and ethical mental health professional for yourself. Now I want you to just focus back at me again and have your complete attention, especially all the millennials out there. So currently, what situation are we facing? What are we going through? The pandemic, right? So since the pandemic has happened, our world has completely shifted online. Right from attending birthday parties, attending weddings, joining virtual workouts, to even working from home. Sorry, a small correction, working from your beds. And this is working out very well for you millennials because it's comfortable, it's very convenient, It is virtual and also involves a gadget in your hand. If your mother tells you to buy vegetables, what do? You order them online. If your AC is not working, you order a technician online. Yes, nowadays even people can be ordered online. If you're not feeling well, if your days are not so great, if you're going through low phase of your life, what do? You download a mental health app. Yes, an app for mental health. Now what worries me in this is that these kind of apps, they give you generalized solutions, they give you quick fixes, they give you ready-made solutions. But what worries me is that this is not therapy, guys. Therapy requires dedication. It requires long-term efforts. Here they are giving you very pocket-friendly therapy, which is almost for 299 rupees. My nephew's toys are more expensive than that. If our problems are not developed overnight, then how can you expect that you will get the solutions in just one moment like that? It requires for you to get in touch with the root of your emotional problems and then trying to deal with them. Therapy process requires great amount of time, effort and long-term dedication. Now I also wanted to make this shift online, trying to connect with my clients, trying to give my services on an accessible medium for them. But when I actually fall into that field, I saw various online platforms, and what I was taught back then and what was really happening in the field was very contradictory, and there was no match at all. I couldn't stand it. So I thought, let me start by my own. I wanted to start my own mental health organization, and I started it. I named it as Mind Voyage, a journey within. And I decided that I will work on 3 aims and will stick very firmly to that. The first one was making therapy very normal, normalizing the entire process, destigmatizing therapy. Second was to make my service very accessible through online mediums. And third, very important, keeping ethical practices and legal laws in place, and by adhering them, trying to give out the traditional therapy. But when I moved forward, this journey was not so easy. I was competing with very large platforms, big websites with a lot of fundings, tech-savvy apps, and here I was having zero presence online. Nowhere my name was there on Google. I had no social media whatsoever. But I wanted to start with baby steps. So I started my Instagram page. And that was because I like writing posts. I like creating creative mediums. I like writing. So I started with that. I also made my own website and tried to hire a professional from technology background to do that for me. Today there are about 1500 people who are using Mind Voyage for their mental health services, and this was only possible because I took that external help which was required. Over the time, if I have realized anything, if you are not aware as a consumer of what you want, then people will fool you. If you don't know what is it that you're looking for, then it's very easy to take your advantage. This decision of going to therapy and choosing your counselor is very important and crucial decision in your life. It can either make or break your mental health. As I have seen bad therapy outcomes, I also have seen good therapy outcomes. And this is literally the point that I tried to make today through my talk. Just consider this example. When you are, if at all, you had to go through a surgery, what do you do? What kind of background check do you do on that doctor? You will read their Google reviews. You will go to the hospital that they are working for. You will try to gain feedback from all possible sources that you can. Also, you will go and talk to that doctor, right? So why not do the same when it comes to your mental health? At the end, a peaceful mind will only lead to a happy life. So, after hearing today's talk, I hope that you all are very well equipped to choose your right therapist and have open frame of mind towards seeking a professional help when it comes to your mental health. And this one question will drive you: is your mental health in safe hands? Thank you.
Life, thoughts, and our emotions all depend on how we look at things. Keeping this theme of thought going, I would like to present who might be a familiar face to quite a few of you guys from modern YouTube streaming culture, Dr. Siddharth Warrier. Having completed his MBBS from JJ Hospital and Grant Medical College, Mumbai, MD General Medicine from KEM Hospital, he holds a super specialty degree in DM Neurology from Lucknow. A poet by passion, he is the co-founder of the Poetry Club Lucknow, a feedback-based poetry open mic platform. His poem Limbic Love won the International Hippocrates Medical Poetry Award in 2019.
When I was 13, I started learning to play the guitar. And I immediately faced the challenges that millions of kids must have faced before me. My fingers were too small to play the strings, too weak to press them properly. And my hands were too untrained to move from note to note. So the first 1 month was half-formed, unclear, painful notes that sounded bad and felt worse. But the second month, nothing much changed. But the third month, something did change. My fingers weren't hurting the same way. They were pressing on the notes a lot better, and the chords were actually sounding like chords. I could play my first chord after 3 months of practice, which was the A chord, arguably the easiest chord to play. And after 6 months of practice, I could play my first bar chord. I wish I could say that I learned a big lesson that day, but I was so excited to call myself a guitarist that all I could do was look forward to college and impressing other people with my first A chord. I decided to take up biology and become a doctor, gave a couple of entrance exams, got decent ranks, did my MBBS from Grant Medical College in Mumbai and my MD medicine from KEM Hospital in Mumbai. And when I entered my residency, I faced a challenge that thousands of residents had faced before me. My medical knowledge was too less to understand the complexities of the cases in front of me. My hands were too untrained to do all the procedures that were expected of me, and my time management skills were not good enough for me to finish the tasks I had to do each day. It was like I was learning the guitar all over again, but with human lives at stake. I found myself constantly reading to update my knowledge, practicing medical procedures, and my efficiency kept getting better. After 3 to 4 months of residency, I found myself recognizing the patterns between different diseases, and I was actually finishing my work in time and getting a good night's sleep. Not every day, but some days. And subconsciously, something else was happening. I was developing a confidence that whatever be the task, I can learn it. I was learning to learn. This got me curious about the process of learning, what happens in the brain when we learn. This led me to be interested in neurology and neuroscience. I took up my DM neurology in SGPGI in Lucknow, and 4 years later, here I am talking to you about the neuroscience behind learning. So what is learning? To put it simply, learning is the intake and storage of new information and forming new connections with existing information. Learning is something we spend a lot of time on. Almost all our childhood and a significant part of our adult lives goes in the act of learning something. Whether it's a new language, a new skill, a new concept, every TED talk you listen to is giving you new information you probably didn't have. So let us look at the 3 aspects of learning from a neuroscience perspective. First is intake. The intake of new information requires a sensory apparatus. All the information you receive enters your brain through one of your 5 senses, through your touch, taste, smell, sound, and sight. When I'm talking to you, this information is reaching you through your ears. It hits your tympanic membrane, and the cochlea inside your ear converts it into electric signals. These electric signals are taken up into your brain in a place called as the auditory cortex inside your temporal lobe. This is where these electric signals are decoded into information that you perceive as sounds, as words, and meanings. Similarly, my expressions, my gestures reach your eyes, hit your retina, where it is converted into electric signals that are sent to your visual cortex inside your occipital lobe. And again, this is where your brain understands these electric signals as images, shapes, meaningful visualizations. Similarly for touch and the somatosensory cortex and so on. This is intake of information, and this is step one of learning. An important step, no doubt. The more you intake, the more you learn. But as essential as this is, I believe this is the easiest aspect of learning. The next step is putting all this information together and making sense of all your senses. Every primary sensory cortex, like the auditory cortex, like the occipital cortex, has a secondary association cortex, which has the role of putting all the pieces of this jigsaw back together and forming a big picture. This is where our brain constructs a three-dimensional view of the world around us and what we perceive as reality. And this is the reality that our brain must now learn. But it's not enough to just let information in. That information must also be stored. And this is where memory comes in. Memory is the glue that holds reality together. Memory is what links each moment to the next and gives reality the uninterrupted feeling of time passing. There are different types of memory. There is the immediate memory. For instance, if somebody gives you their phone number, the amount of time you need to remember those digits, to take out your phone, enter those digits and store their contact is what immediate memory is. Along with the 5 other details of where and how you met, because that's how all contact names are stored. In the brain, the immediate memory, also known as the working memory, is stored in the prefrontal cortex, which is at the front of your brain, in your frontal lobe. What if you don't have your phone with you? Well, assuming you get over your anxiety, you will have to memorize it. In other words, learn it. This is where long-term memory comes in, and this is where your hippocampus, which is an area deep within the temporal cortex, comes into play. The hippocampus has the role of storing your long-term memories, and the process of converting your immediate memories into long-term memories that you will just remember is what is learning. But getting something to stay on as a long-term memory is not easy. Most of the information that we receive is subconsciously perceived and lost. We see hundreds of faces in a day, at least we used to before this pandemic, but most of them don't really hit our conscious perception. They would barely register, hover in our working memory for a second or two, and then just fade away. But the faces that we do remember are the faces we see every day, or the faces that we see in a context which is important to us, like a first date, for instance. In other words, there are 2 things that decide if a piece of information will get stored on as a long-term memory: repetition and context. So let's talk of repetition. When a new piece of information enters the hippocampus, one of the things that happens is formation of new synapses. A synapse is the connection between 2 neurons which are brain cells. But a new synapse is fragile and can very easily break, or rather that memory can get lost unless it is strengthened. Repeated firing of that synapse will lead to something called as long-term potentiation, or LTP, which is one of the fundamental building blocks of learning. The synapse gets stronger and stronger, which means it takes progressively less effort to fire it until you're doing it without thinking, as if it is a habit. This is how practice leads to habit, which will become intuition. You end up doing something without thinking. Now let's talk of context. Just like the saying, no man is an island, similarly, no piece of information exists in isolation. Everything you know is connected to something else that you know. Your brain is constantly looking for patterns, and every new piece of information must fit into a pre-existing pattern to be understood. There are many ways of visualizing this. I visualize it as a knowledge tree. If I were to tell you something new, like a new fact, it's like handing you a new leaf of information. Your brain will register it and look for a place in the knowledge tree to place it, a branch of other similar things to group it with. If you do find something like that, this new piece of information becomes a part of a larger picture and fits in, and therefore it becomes easier to remember. New connections start forming between neurons or new synapses, and they become progressively stronger because of long-term potentiation, and this process is called as neuroplasticity. Which brings me to my first two learning to learn hacks that I use to learn better, practice more, and find better context. It also brings me to the first pitfall of learning. If a new piece of information does not fit in easily, it could lead to anxiety or fear. Our brain's need to make things fit into a pattern is so great that often we may end up making patterns prematurely just to make space for new information that doesn't fit. Or we may even modify the information itself to make it fit better. This is a form of cognitive bias that needs to be looked out for. Now, if the information you're getting is in familiar territory, your brain already knows what to do with it. The networks are in place, the patterns are already formed, and you are comfortable learning this. But suppose it is unfamiliar information, a new job, a new language, a project that is outside of your comfort zone. This is an uncomfortable situation. Like an animal outside of its natural habitat, the brain reacts in a different way when forced to learn something that doesn't fit. You may have heard of the limbic system. It's an ancient part of the brain that controls emotions. One of the parts of the limbic system is an area called amygdala, which gets activated whenever there is a threat. And activation of the amygdala leads to a hormone called cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And cortisol has an important role to play in the formation of new synapses or neuroplasticity. In other words, stress is an important factor for learning. We think of stress as a negative thing, but stress is also a sign that your brain is taking something seriously. If a new piece of information does not elicit any stress, like one of the hundreds of faces that we pass in the street, it might not register long enough to be converted into a long-term memory. Your amygdala activation has a key role to play in focus, motivation, and distraction. Like any student learning a new topic the day before the exam can tell you, a little bit of stress acts like a great boost for learning. But it is not something that I would recommend depending on, because too much stress can very easily trigger anxiety and panic, which act as a detriment to learning. So the third learning to learn hack that I use is optimizing your stress. Now, this is something that is easier said than done, but I've realized that it is something we all do subconsciously. We all have an idea of our own stress sweet spot, where too little means you're bored and too much means you're frustrated, and that optimum zone in the middle is where productivity and learning happens. And this brings me to the final part of my talk, which is failure. Now, the idea of failure has been ingrained in us as something to avoid. But failure is actually feedback in the loop of learning. Learning is not a linear process because our neural networks are not linear. Everything in the brain happens in circles as feedback loops, information going back and forth. So an important part of learning new information is putting that information back into the world in some form. In other words, teaching is a great way of learning. Why is it important to learn to learn? Our knowledge of the brain is still growing, but this is an important conversation to be had right from schools. Everybody learns differently, and understanding the science behind learning can help children learn better. Children with learning disability, dyslexia, ADHD, they will benefit from an early diagnosis and a greater understanding of how learning happens in the brain. The networks that are used to learn are formed in childhood, but they continue evolving in adults. I have realized that learning to learn has an exponential benefit. The more you learn, the easier it becomes to learn new things. In the last 3 months, I've been experimenting with learning. I've been taking up new projects, upgrading old projects, and trying out these techniques to improve the outcome. Apart from my life as a doctor and a neurologist and seeing patients and learning to treat them better, I'm learning to write poetry, play the guitar, give music to poetry, and make songs, shoot and edit videos. I've started a YouTube channel to explore neuroscience and normalize talking about neural networks in relation to learning, to behavior, to mental health, and to everyday experiences. I'm using this knowledge of stress and attention to improve my multitasking. I feel I'm on a journey with no end because there is always something else to learn. Usually these talks end with a conclusion, but I'm speaking to you today from the middle of my journey. So think of this as a story so far. I'll keep learning new things every day and try to combine them into a bigger picture. I hope you'll all do the same. Happy learning, everyone.
Fill your brain with giant dreams so it doesn't have space or time for pretty pursuits. With this, let's move on to a Carnatic music fusion artist whose artistic goal is to present and celebrate Indian classical fusion music in contemporary ways for modern audiences. Plays new electronic musical instruments and runs a fusion project called Flair Carnatic Music 2.0. TEDx SIESGST 2020 presents you the young talented who is the creative director of Indian Raga, Mahesh Raghvan. There's life in music. That's why the heart beats. Next up, we have a drag performer by night and a human rights lawyer by day. Known for the unique style of drag, which mixes drag, fashion, and theatre. And not to be forgotten, has been featured in leading media publications including the BBC, Harper's Bazaar, Cosmopolitan, Vogue, among several others. Yet again, an immaculate example of something different. With immense pleasure, TEDx SIESGST is enthralled to introduce to you our next speaker on board, the drag queen and human rights lawyer, who is also known by the name LushMonsoon.
7 months ago, I was in Delhi. I was performing in drag shows, and during the daytime, I was working as a human rights lawyer. And as all of you know, suddenly the pandemic struck, and I had to move back to my hometown in Ranchi. All my shows got cancelled within 2 days, and life just took a turn. As they say, I literally had to move back to my closet from where I had started my journey. Hello everyone, my name is LushMonsoon. I am a drag performer by night and a human rights lawyer by the day. Now, to those of you who do not know about drag or drag performances, I'll just give you a brief summary because there are so many videos out there which tell you about the Indian drag scene, about the Indian drag community, and my own journey as well. But to give you a short summary, drag is basically an art form. It's a type of performance art where you play around with the idea of gender. So you either play the opposite gender or a different gender, or you just exaggerate the gender that you are. That is what drag is in a nutshell. Now, I started my drag journey in 2017. India has a huge history, cultural history of drag. It's there in our, mythologies, our stories. But the version of drag that I do here and that you see got popular only in the last 3 to 4 years. And in this time, the drag scene has flourished and many new drag performers have come up to the stage. So when I had to move back to my hometown in Ranchi, I literally could not do drag anymore because my parents are not aware of this whole avatar of me called LushMonsoon. They know me only as Ayushman. So naturally, I could not do drag as often as I wanted to, and I felt like a part of me was being denied because I used this whole avatar to express my femininity to the world. But that was not possible. So in these last few months, which have been difficult and challenging for all of us, it made me realize the importance of drag in my life. So today I decided to share with you all some of the learnings from drag which can be useful for everybody and anybody, not just for drag performers. So the first important thing that I feel like everybody should learn from drag is to love and honor your inner child. Now, I'll tell you a small story. When I was 5 years old, I was obsessed with Madhuri Dixit. And I used to dance to this song, Mera Piya Ghar Aaya O Ramji. And all my neighbors would surround me near the fire. It was a winter time and there was a bonfire being lit, and I would dance at the center with the hook steps, and all my relatives would cheer for me and they would watch. And I really don't know whether they were really appreciating my dance or they were really amused to see a little boy doing a girl's step. But I did not care. For me, I was living my best life. I was giving my life performance. That was what gave me joy when I was a child. It was anything to do with arts and culture, whether it be drawing or painting or singing or, dancing. But as I grew up, I discovered that, being yourself is not always met with acceptance from society. Because I saw a lot of my classmates and my friends being bullied and harassed for just being themselves. So naturally, I hid my femininity, I censored myself in public, and I would focus more on presenting a different version of myself to the world. As time went by, I, had to choose a career after my high school. I had only two options then, engineering or medical, because these are the options that you have when you are from a small town. At least in my time they were. So I chose medical, and naturally I failed because I had no inclination towards being a doctor. And then I found law. And I thought it was very interesting. It was so logical. So I went for it and I qualified for one of the best law schools in India. But in law school, I realized that there was a part of me which was still missing. That even though I loved law and I loved everything in law school, I still yearned to be a performer and, to make people happy through my performances. So after law school, I decided not to sit for the placements, and I decided to go back to what I loved the most. Now, this wasn't easy. There was a time when I was really depressed, when I just did not know who I was. And that was because I was not loving my inner child. And I was not respecting the wishes of that child in me. So once I finished law school, I went for a theatre group. I started doing theatre and I discovered drag. Now, through drag, I have found truly what my soul wanted. Drag is basically a mix of singing, dancing, designing, theatre, everything. So every time I get to do drag, I get to live that child version of me. And I think this is important for all of us, no matter what you're doing. Now, the second lesson which drag really taught me is not to take things too seriously. Now, we live in a culture, in a society where we are constantly told to take things seriously. First, we are told to take your studies seriously, then your job seriously, then your life seriously, and then sometimes take your marriage seriously. These are all the things that my parents have told me every now and then. I wonder what they will think when they get to see LushMonsoon and how seriously I took my life. But thankfully, my path has brought me to speak to all of you, so I'm sure I took the right decision. So, as I was saying, we all like to, attach ourselves with different things. For example, sometimes we like to associate ourselves with our favorite football team, or our country, our religion, our, favorite TV show, our favorite TV actor. And we think that, taking on these things makes us who we are. But the reality is, we are not what we like. That is not us. We are separate from the things that we enjoy. And what drag teaches us is to not take your identity so seriously. Our identity is made up of all these things that we make up in our mind. Now, take drag. Right now, I am here in front of you as LushMonsoon. And once I take the makeup off, within 3 minutes, I'll be a different person. Some people can't even recognize that side from this person, and they will be like, I can't believe that this is the same person as LushMonsoon. Spoiler alert, LushMonsoon and Ayushman are the same people. That's how it is. So basically what drag is trying to tell us is to not get caught up in these things. I'm not asking you to not take your life seriously or your goals seriously or the effort that you put in seriously. But don't take them too seriously. Don't make them your entire life so that when they are not there, you don't have anything else. Right now, a lot of things may seem very important to you, like selecting which movie to watch or what dress to order or what career to choose, even. But after some time, after few days, few months, few weeks, it'll all seem like not that serious. So that is what every drag artist and is trying to tell the society. Don't take things too seriously. Don't take your gender too seriously. Don't take the roles which society tells you to do that seriously. Break the rules, play with all the colors in the crayon box. And the third thing which I wanted to share with you all today, which I've learned through drag, is to build your own community and to find your own tribe. Now, when your family or the people who are there with you are unable to support you in any way, because it could be for any reason whatsoever, then you have to choose your own family. Doing drag is a very, very challenging thing in India because people don't see this as a legitimate form of expression, and there is still a lot of taboo around, dressing up as a woman, and drag in general is very taboo. Gender, in fact, is very, very. You still see in India how there is gender inequality in every field. So, in that kind of a state, doing drag is obviously very, very difficult. And if I have been able to reach where I am today, and been able to perform and create this whole avatar, it's because of my friends who have taken me from that little child to this grown LushMonsoon. So it doesn't have to be 500 friends or five friends even. You just need to find one person who will believe in your dreams and who will support you, and that is enough to take you through your life and through your journey. And the thing is that for anybody who wants to do things differently, if you want to go against the grain, you have to find like-minded people who will understand your experiences, who will understand your struggle, and they will be the ones who will sometimes give you the care which you need from your family. And this happens a lot with queer people. For me, drag is drag is fun because I do it with my drag sisters. There are times when I have performances which are just featuring me, but it's not as fun as when I'm getting ready together with my fellow drag performers, and together we are sharing this experience. So having a bunch of people to witness your journey makes things much, much better. Thank you for having me here, and it was a great pleasure for me to come and share my experiences as a drag performer with all of you, and I hope you all the best.
Everyone is created equal and endowed by the Creator with a mighty urge to become otherwise. Now we present to you the CEO of a global industry analyst firm focused on automation and enterprise AI, RPA to AI, Mr. Kashyap Kompella. He has 20 years of experience as an industry analyst and is widely recognized as a thought leader. With tremendous delight, I present to you the speaker of TEDx SIESGST, the very diligent Mr. Kashyap Kompella.
Artificial intelligence, winners and losers in the brave new world.
An important talk like this involves a lot of preparation. There are a lot of critical decisions to be made. And in a pandemic, there is a big dilemma, the real social dilemma. Do you go outside and get a haircut? Or do you get a home haircut and look funny like this? Artificial intelligence is a very important topic, but it's also a complex topic. It means different things to different people, and each of us has our own perception of what AI is and what AI's impact will be.
We are just like those blind men in the old fable trying to make sense of the elephant in the room called artificial intelligence. a lot of anxiety about AI is because of these differing perceptions. Let us try and clear the confusion. If you want to learn about a topic, your first stop usually is Google. So let's go to Google and search for artificial intelligence. You can try this out now. But there are more than 130 million results for artificial intelligence. Too much information. Overwhelming. How about we pick a book? So let's go to Amazon and search for books on artificial intelligence. 40,000 books. Wow, information overload again. Or as HAL 9000 would say, I'm afraid I can't do that.
Have you wondered how we form our opinions about AI? Who teaches the world about AI?
I know the geeks and nerds among you are thinking about Professor Andrew Yang. Note that I've had this haircut even before Zuckerberg. Professor Andrew's courses on AI have about 3.4 million enrollments. But everyone who signs up for an online course knows we excel in what? We excel in dropping out. Only about 3% complete the courses. I'm sorry, Andrew. We can't do that.
Then, how does the world learn about AI? From where do we get our knowledge?
There are two main sources. The first one is Hollywood. Yes, from movies. Professor Arnold has taught more folks about AI than Professor Andrew. These movies are all about humans versus evil robots, robots taking over the world domination, apocalyptic scenarios, robots that fight their creators. Sorry, I goofed up here. My bad. My apologies to all the Rajini fans. This definitely is super intelligence. Movies are also about love stories. They teach us how humans fall in love with AI and androids. Our relationship with AI, it's complicated.
These movies are great fun, but they're far from reality. I tell you, our professors are misleading us. So we don't have machines or robots that have consciousness, free will, feelings, and emotions, or what we call artificial general intelligence.
Our next main source of misinformation. Information. The news media. The media, they try hard, but that business, it's all about being sensational. If Hollywood is about the end of the world, media is about the end of jobs. So the media is preoccupied with how AI is overtaking humans, how AI will replace humans, how it will lead to massive job losses. Again, the reality is very different. Yes, AI is definitely getting better, but our fears of massive job losses to AI are overblown. In reality, media hypes up the current capabilities of AI. The media narrative is that AI is a solution to practically everything under the sun, from tapping renewable energy to curing cancer, from improving education to saving the planet, from solving for climate change to ending world hunger. Don't believe me? Just read the newspaper. Journalists also don't question whether AI is indeed the right solution to such problems. Media also does not acknowledge the debates about AI, its side effects such as biases and unintended consequences. To be sure, AI is useful in many of these areas, but is it really the hero or the sidekick? To sum up, for Hollywood, AI is superhuman. For media, AI is a superpower. But these two narratives don't give us the real picture of AI.
At this point in time, to give you a clear picture, I will discuss a few questions that are on the top of your mind. Things like, what actually is AI? What are the skills of the future? What's the advice for students? What's the advice for professionals? How should countries prepare as artificial intelligence becomes more widespread? Very tough questions. How I wish there was a well-read AI that can give us good answers to these questions. Surprise, ladies and gentlemen, the next part of this TEDx talk will be given by AI. Yes, that's right.
Media people watching, that's a good headline. AI gives a TED Talk. AI that is very well read? Yes, it has read all those millions of documents. The AI answers these questions based on what it has seen in the millions of documents it has read. Yes, it's our high-tech version of monkey see, monkey do. Because the answers it gives range from the excellent to the unmentionable. Humans are needed to separate the pearls of wisdom and the BS.
The questions are mine, but the responses are from this AI software called GPT-3. A shout out to tech entrepreneur Tushar Kathar and the team at philosopherai.com, some of whose content I'll be using today. So let's go. Hello AI, let's start with the basics. Tell us a bit more about yourself. What is AI?
Artificial intelligence is the science of making machines do things that would require intelligence if done by people. Artificial intelligence is a simulation of human intelligence processes by machines. AI is the ability of computers to digest large amounts of data, which is impossible for humans at that scale, and get to accurate results and decisions in a short period of time. The central tasks of AI include understanding natural language, recognizing objects and scenes and images, playing games and strategies. Hope you like my robot voice.
We're off to a good start, so let's continue. We all want to know how the nature of work will change as AI is more widely adopted and how we should prepare. So my next question is, what should employees do to succeed as jobs are increasingly being automated?
The future of work will be a combination of automation, AI, and human skills. The keys to success will be to get the right balance between the three, as well as to acquire the skills that machines and AI cannot do easily. Smaller monkey, by the way, is GPT-2, the previous generation of this AI software.
A lot of our friends listening today are students. So this question is on their behalf. What courses should students study to be successful in the future?
The future of education is not about acquiring siloed skills, but about acquiring skills that are relevant and transferable across a range of disciplines. This means that those who can operate in an interdisciplinary way using cross-disciplinary skills are the ones who will be most successful in the future.
That's a very glib response. I know where it is coming from. I think this AI is a fresh MBA grad. It has all the right words. It knows everything, yet it knows nothing.
By the way, this Gyan is not free. It costs about 5 rupees for each answer. My MBA was so much more expensive. ISB, we need to have a chat.
Here is the all-important question. Which skills will be in greater demand in the next 5 to 10 years?
In order to understand what skills can be in demand in the next 5 to 10 years, we need to know what kind of tasks will be done by machines. We can figure this out by looking at the components of the automation technology. We can think of automation as a 3-level pyramid. At the top are super intelligent machines that are able to replace humans in almost all tasks. In the middle of the pyramid are machines that are able to replace humans in a specific type of task. Finally, at the bottom of the pyramid are machines that only replace humans in a very narrow category of tasks. Wow, that's a good response. I see what you're trying to do here. You're giving us a framework to think through. That's what consultants do. There is even the rule of 3. Hey, McKinsey and other consultants, you better watch out. AI is coming after your work.
So here is a serious topic. We hear a lot about bias and discrimination because of AI software. So how can we reduce the bias in AI software?
Bias can be found in 3 basic ways. It can either be built into the data that is used to train the algorithms. It could be the result of the algorithms themselves, or it could be in the people who train the algorithms. Algorithms are trained to make sense of the world using examples. If your training examples are biased, then so will be your algorithm. We should do everything we can to ensure that our training sets are as diverse as possible. We can reduce bias in machine learning by being more aware of the limitations and biases in our own thinking. Wow, that's a great response. I don't think I could have done a better job articulating that.
So we've talked about the individuals, students, employees. So let's talk at the country level now. What should countries do to benefit fully from artificial intelligence?
There are many things that countries should do to benefit fully from artificial intelligence. First, they should invest in AI. It is important to realize that AI is not just a technology. It's a new way of thinking about problems and solving them. It's a new way of organizing people and machines to work together. It's a new way of doing business. Second, they can also invest in education. It is important that people learn to work with machines. It is also important that they learn to work with other people. Third, they can invest in research. AI is a fast-moving field. It is important that we understand what is happening, why it is happening, and what it means. We should also invest in AI for the public good. We should invest in AI for the environment, AI for healthcare, and AI for the arts. Wow, that's like AI Man Ki Baat. Niti Aayog and other think tanks. I hope you were taking good notes.
It's been nice chatting with you, but it's time to wrap up this interview. I had a lot of fun, but one last question. It's about the future, your future. Where do you see yourself 5 years down the road? Okay. What does the future of AI look like?
The future of AI will not look like Skynet from the Terminator films. It'll be quite benign as long as we make conscious choices about the future of AI. We need to make sure that the benefits of AI are broadly shared and that we use these technologies to support the need for care, compassion, and creativity. We want to have a future with more jobs and fewer people being left behind.
That concludes the first ever TED Talk on AI by AI. One more thing.
As humanity, now we are at that crucial juncture, that tipping point at the creation of AI. Humans are able to show empathy, compassion, and morality. These are not traits which AI possesses. Humans are able to form emotional relationships with other humans. This is something that AI will never be able to do. Humans also have the power of imagination, which enables us to create new concepts and ideas. Artificial intelligence is a great tool that can help us in many ways. But if we fixate on a vision of AI that is not here or may never be here, or if we uncritically cheerlead or overstate its capabilities, we will miss a golden chance to make a better AI.
AI is not a superhuman. AI is not a superpower. Just like electricity, it's a great tool that we can harness effectively. If we use AI to augment our capabilities, if we make AI more inclusive, if we use AI responsibly, humanity will be the ultimate winner. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Srinivas Somal and I'm the organizer of TEDx SIESGST. Thank you all for joining our virtual TEDx premiere today. Though circumstances made a live conference impossible this year, we are grateful for this opportunity to share talks from people of such diverse walks of life online. We hope you've had a wonderful time in this event and a great semester in college. We'll meet again for another event in a different timeline very soon. Till then, talk about ideas, share thoughts, and never stop learning, because life never stops teaching. Thank you so much.